Welcome to my Capstone Project implementation and reflection presentation. My personal SEL practice that I focused on was stress management. My two goals to help manage my stress was to leave daily, no more than half an hour after my contracted in time, as well as to restart my weekly personal counseling sessions. I felt that I was able to implement both of these goals pretty well. I struggled in the beginning with leaving on time because I always felt like there was more that I could accomplish if I just stayed a little bit later past 4 o'clock. Although I knew that this mentality was contributing to my stress levels overall, it was initially really difficult to let go of the to do list I had and to leave when my alarm would go off each day. After a few work days, I did start to notice that leaving at 4 was becoming a lot easier. I kind of came to that conclusion that I knew my to do list would never truly be done. And unless something had a hard deadline, I knew that I needed to focus on my own well being and follow through with my goal of leaving at 4 o'clock. Well, this is my sixth year teaching, and generally in the past few years, I would leave around contracted time. I'm currently in a new grade level, and I felt that that made it really difficult this year going in and kind of feeling like a brand new teacher again. I was leaving around 5:30, sometimes even 6 o'clock daily, as well as going in on my weekends in order to get things organized, planned, and ready for the week. So this was a really important goal for me to get back to leaving close to contract time because it was really beginning to kind of take a toll on my social and emotional state. It was really hard. I felt like I was constantly working, and I know that that's, one of the fastest ways to kind of burn yourself out. And so going into year six, this was a really difficult thing for me. And I really enjoyed being able to use this goal to focus on myself. The second practice that I implemented was to restart my counseling sessions. This was really easy for me to implement. I actually looked forward to my Zoom or phone session. I would have one or the other with my counselor each week. I really like the flexibility of being able to have my sessions virtually because I was able to do them kind of anywhere, anytime, and they could be as short or as long as I needed, depending on the week and the support that I felt that I needed from these counseling sessions. So I was able to, easily implement this into my weekly routine. At first, it was really difficult for me to leave on time. And I felt that after I was able to set it as a goal and was really intentional about this goal, it started to become noticeably easier for me to focus on my own well being. I have since continued to leave at 4 o'clock, and I no longer feel that guilt for leaving things unfinished for the next day or over the weekend. I also felt that I was able to focus on my counseling sessions once I restarted them. And it was kind of played a really important role in me being able to give myself that permission to focus on my own well being by going through those counseling sessions. Some things that I learned about myself and my social emotional competence through this process was that I learned that I need to be intentional with my time and really intentional with my goals. Um, I found that once I was sure I had a focused goal to work towards, I was able to really implement it and focus on it. I also learned that I need to give myself some time to adjust before deciding that maybe a goal is not working for me or that I need to make a change. As I talked about earlier, I noticed that after giving myself a few days, it did become easier for me to feel like I could accomplish that goal after giving me a couple of those adjustment days and getting used to leaving at 4. It became easier, and I no longer had that guilty feeling that I did, the first couple of days that I implemented this goal. So I think I was able to really come to that conclusion that instead of maybe trying to give up on a goal or switch a goal really quickly, I should give myself a little bit more time to adjust, because once I did that, I realized that it was a lot easier to do than I had initially thought it was. And if I had just given up on this goal early in the first couple of days, then I wouldn't have gotten as far as I did this year or the last few weeks. I think that I'll definitely be able to continue both of these practices after the course is over. I know that there's going to be times that I'm going to need to stay later than 4, but I am making it a year-long goal for me to, in general, give myself a end time if there are days that I need to stay past my 3:30 contracted time. I also think I'll go ahead and continue my counseling sessions. I don't know if I'll continue them weekly or maybe once monthly, but I do find that those sessions have been really beneficial, both for my stress from work as well as personal stress from home. And I have noticed a lot of improvements in my mood and my ability to manage that stress after my counseling sessions. For my class-wide SEL practices, I decided to implement 2 practices, and that was to begin a community circle 3 times a week, as well as student self-reflection via Google Form. These focused on SEL and academic reflections. I was not able to implement the community circle 3 days a week, but I did manage to implement it twice a week. It was mostly due to time constraints. Introducing something new to my students mid-semester or mid-quarter was a bit difficult. Typically, since I was able to do it twice a week, it would happen towards the beginning of the week and end of the week, respectively. I was able to successfully implement the self-reflection because it was easy on Google Form. Students were able to access the form in our Google Classroom, and it was really easy for me to work this into the last 10 or so minutes of our day. Some things that went well, self-reflection went really well for me. I felt like students had a good understanding of what it was for. They really responded well to sharing things with me, both personal and academically. And I felt like they kind of started to really get the hang of reflecting and taking that time to really think about how their day went and things that we could improve on. And it seemed to be a really good tool for them once they got the hang of answering some of those questions. The community circle was also, it went well, but I did have a few challenges with that I'm going to cover now. Some challenges that I encountered was that my largest challenge was student behavior when we began our community circles. I knew it was going to be something that I'd be able to work through and fix with my students, but initially we dealt with a lot of behaviors like talking out of turn, students trying to be silly on the carpet with their friends, and otherwise just not being focused on the community circle as a whole. So that was one of the largest challenges I had with this practice. Some data that I collected was I collected the daily Google Forms for my students for their self-reflection. This included questions such as the following. I asked them to rate their level of effort today. I also made sure I, explained to them there's no right or wrong answer. I just wanted them to reflect on how they felt they tried, how much effort they put into their work today. I asked, did they have a good day? And I let them share if they'd like to share anything with me about their day. I did include a question, how can we make tomorrow a good day or better for you, so that they, would feel comfortable sharing some of those things with me if they just felt like they did not have a great day. And they always had a question that they could add suggestions, ways that I can make the classroom a better place. And these questions were not mandatory, so students were welcome to skip any question that they did not want to answer. But most of them were very happy to answer at least like the first 3. And then sometimes they would have a suggestion that they'd like to add in for me as well. Observations I made during the community circle was that students seemed to really enjoy sharing out. Each community circle kind of had a couple of different things. They'd get a fun fact. Usually there was some sort of motivational video, as well as being able to share out with a question of the day. And students seemed to really respond well to the community circle activities. I felt like I was able to adopt that continuous improvement mindset, mostly through student feedback. It was really helpful for me to have them share their struggles and triumphs with me, especially when sometimes we feel as an educator that there's not, a lot of time in the day for those types of things. So it was really nice to be able to see that in these self-reflection forms. And then I was able to kind of touch base with students about about things that they shared. And they seemed to really enjoy that. And that really kind of helped me keep up that mindset. Some changes that I noticed among my students from implementing these practices is I felt like I started to notice improvements in behavior during our community circle. Um, and with that, students that did not maybe participate a lot during our academic discussions, they really seemed to enjoy participating in our community circle shareouts. They were happy to share, they were willing to share, they enjoyed sharing things about themselves with myself and their classmates. And so that was an observation that I made during our community circle. I do believe that I'll continue using some of these practices in my classroom. I'm going to continue using student self-reflection in my room, and I may adjust it as time goes on. I may adjust the questions or the way that I give students the survey. I also want to continue using our community circle as well, but I know that I'm going to need to make maybe some adjustments due to time constraints. My students did share that they really enjoyed being able to do community circle in the classroom, and they felt like it was a great way to kind of get to know me and their fellow peers. So it's something I want to continue after winter break with my students. Some things I felt like I learned about myself. I really felt like I was able to reflect on myself as a whole, just like my students did. When students were filling out their self reflection forms, I would take a minute or so to really reflect on my day as well as an educator, and maybe any improvements I could make to better serve my students or to, just kind of um, help them through the things that they were going through, whether it be academically, emotionally, at home. And so I was able to really take the practices and kind of also implement them with myself. So overall, I think my largest takeaway from this course and learning about SEL is that I don't think I ever realized just how much research backs up that student well-being can be impacted significantly by teacher well-being. I generally go to work with a positive attitude anyways, but I don't think that I previously realized just how much my own stress levels and lack of stress management was impacting my students. So I really think that that's one of the largest takeaways I got from the this course and learning, a little bit more about SEL overall. It was a little difficult for me to focus on both the personal and class-wide practices at the same time. I do think that over time it got easier as I was able to implement them into my schedule. I think I would benefit more from separating those goals a little bit more and really focusing on one at a time. And then once I really got that one down, then trying another goal. But overall, it was okay. I was able to manage it. Um, and some ways that I noticed my personal practice influenced my classified practices. I felt like my personal practices really allowed me to be a better educator in the last couple of weeks. This time of year is always a stressful one as we approach the holidays and the deadlines that we know are coming with those holidays. I felt that I was really able to better manage my stress, and in turn, I felt like that was reflective in my class. My class felt more manageable. I would leave feeling much better at the end of the day rather than really tired and just overwhelmed from the day. So I think that was a really big change just from implementing these practices. Some implications of the capstone class for my personal growth. I really enjoyed being able to implement these new practices and having a really focused and intentional focus for the last couple of weeks. I felt like it really gave me something to work towards. And with that intentional implementation, I was able to really reflect on how I felt it worked or adjustments I need to make. And I just felt like having that specific focus was really helpful for me. I also felt similarly about my professional goals. I was able to implement them with intent and focus. And I think that because of that, I was able to really reflect on how it was helpful to both myself and my students. Next steps for me are going to be to continue implementing these practices into my day. I felt like they were incredibly helpful. I saw growth, and that was only in the few short weeks that I had to implement. So I feel that if I continue to implement these throughout the rest of my school year, I'm only going to continue to see more improvements both in myself and my students. So those are my next steps that I'm going to go ahead and continue beyond the course. Thank you for listening to my presentation.